up in Toronto. We're going to tell you about what they're working on and what they're doing, but this is our 52 Comms Mixup interview on Just In Case You Were Wondering. And so I've got Elissa Freeman with me today, and also Carlene Siopis. Did I get it right? Yes, Carlene and Siopis got both.
Usually my name is the one that gets butchered, but that's okay. That's okay.
Nice, and it's Elissa PR on Twitter, and then it's Carlene RS, and it's Carlene is Carlene. Good. So we're going to jump into some questions about what these folks are doing with the Pan Am Games up in Toronto, and then we're going to jump into our one kind of more fun question about Toronto, because that's where they're at, and then we'll do our cause question at the end. So let's go ahead and get started. So first question coming up, Elissa and Carlene. You both are working and prepping for the Pan Am Games in 2015. What all goes into planning an international event like that and setting up a PR department for an international event like that?
Well, it's interesting because, when you get here and you get this really exciting job and you're thinking, wow, this is going to be the job of a lifetime. This has really started for me. I started about 4 months earlier than you did. It is a startup, pure and simple. The first thing we had to do is basically look at all our operational touch points. Could people actually find us if they looked us up in the phone book, or if they looked up our address on Google Maps? So it turns out they couldn't. The other thing that we had to do very quickly was get our monitoring and our listening in, because that just wasn't happening. We didn't have the right resources, and now we do. So every day we have our news monitoring, and we're able to see what's out there and be able to be proactive about it or reactive about it. You had a few things.
Yeah, and I think the other really important thing was building some friends, so internal and external stakeholders, so that we had buy-in both inside the organizing committee but outside, because we have a lot of partners. We have a lot to do in 4 years, and we can't do it on our own. So we really had to build strong relationships and go out to a lot of lunches.
Yeah, we call these people game changers. Yeah, lunches is good. We eat every 2 hours, so it doesn't really have to be
Absolutely.
lunch.
We could talk about food and do a whole other interview. Did you say you call them game changers, Elissa? Is that right?
We call them game changers because these are the people that are influencers of both their internal audiences and they're in the media of their external audiences. So we have a tiered set of people, and they could be sports reporters, political reporters, they could be our government stakeholders that we want to talk to so that we understand them and they understand us, because this is a 4-year run and we have to be friends.
Okay, so 4-year run and startup, I hear that, and I always do this in these interviews. I'm going to defer off the questions for a second. How many people are working on this with you? What's your guys' organization look like that's putting this together? How big is it? And you got it's a 4-year process, so tell me a little more about that as far as timeline.
Yeah, we're pretty lean and mean to start with, as our most organizing committees. We really don't start ramping up hiring until late 2012.
Okay.
So right now we're at about 30 people, and 10 of those are what we call associates or interns, where we get them. We have a gateway grad program. So these are elite athletes who apply to be able to work with senior leadership and learn about sports, the business of sports on the ground.
How cool. That's really interesting.
It is. And for example, one of the interns that we have is Chelsea Cotel. She is a world champion Paralympic swimmer. We like to get joke that she does everything in 2 minutes and 26 seconds, which is her world records. But so that's a great learning process for us, a learning process for them. And by the time we hit games, we'll be up to about 400 plus.
Wow. That's going to be a huge ramp up. That's amazing. You learn something new every day for sure.
Yeah.
So we had an interesting conversation on PR2O chat last night, Elissa, that kind of goes along with what you were saying when we first started the conversation. So about how companies engage online or how they don't. And so you made the comment that it seems to me social media is going the way of PR, controlled communications versus uncontrolled spontaneity. Interested in kind of what you meant by that, but also how are you all integrating social media into what you're doing with Pan Am? Sounds like a lot of listening right now. Where's it going, though? What's the future of it look like?
Well, I'll tackle the first part of that, and you can tackle the second part of that. See, that's controlled communication.
There you go.
See, you answered back. So what I meant by that comment, and it's true, what you tweet comes back to haunt you. What I meant by that was sort of, when companies are starting to engage in Twitter or organizations, the first thing that they're afraid of is sort of, you're being able to respond to public inquiry, yet how do you engage with them? And so, companies are just not going to tweet whatever because we know how much trouble they get in when they do.
Right.
So tweets are sort of becoming more like PR controlled key messages.
Right.
They're meant to say something, they're thought of, that we're thinking of our audience, we're thinking of the idea that we want to get across. It will not be, tweets from an organization will not be spontaneous. They can't be, because it's just, for us, it's just another conduit of public relations or communicating with the public.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think you're right. I think the idea of it being authentic, super authentic, is great, but I think that sometimes it's got to be customized a little bit for the company.
I think where you get to be authentic is, let's say you get an untoward comment, you get a negative comment, and
Right.
we all know not to take down negative comments. You've all read about the bad stories or the bad case studies that happen when you do that. So the authenticity, I think, is being able to respond to that negativity,
Right.
but not to take it away. So I think that's where you get your spontaneity.
Right.
But, and I don't sort of look at this in a, maybe some people look at this in a bit of a pejorative way that, social media is all about authenticity. But I think that as companies start to embrace it, and you're dealing with senior leadership, that this whole social media space is brand new to them.
Right.
Still
Is. Yeah,
us,
you guys
we're
are
not
right. Absolutely.
so you have to make it work for them. So, for example, one of the other things that was said last night, if social media sort of stirs up good PR or good media relations as a result, that is a great way for us to be able to show the value of social media using a new media and how it influences the traditional media. But as for what we're doing, the social media.
Yeah, where's the future for Pan Am look like for social?
Well, we're really going by the lead of our AOR, so that's Sapient Nitro, who's done a lot in that space. Right now, like I said, and like you mentioned, they're in the listening phase. But what we've done and what they've helped us do is identify our audiences, because 4 years is a long time on social media. Who knows if Twitter will be here? Who knows what's the next greatest thing? So right now, we're really planning on who are our audiences for this year. And we've identified 3 groups. We've identified our local community, so that's what we call the Great Golden Horseshoe, so Oshawa, all the way over to Niagara Falls.
For those of you who understand Canadian geography,
There you go.
that's Southern Ontario, Canada's largest province. Thank you. Is Ontario the largest?
I don't know.
Is Alberta the largest one?
Ontario. Oh, Quebec. Quebec is huge.
Oh, in terms of landmass.
Yeah, well, population Ontario.
Okay,
Yeah.
small geography.
We always work a little geography into these 52 comms mix-ups.
It's an education course.
The second one is media, because we're trying to just figure out what they need and what they're listening to.
Right.
And then the third is, Elissa?
Youth.
Youth, of course. How could I forget the youth? So those are our 3 targets for this year, and they'll change and they'll evolve, I guess you would say, as we move into 13, 14, and then of course 15, which is games time. So we're sort of reaching out to them, but listening to them right now, and then we'll slowly start to engage them. So I know that we have a few platforms we're hoping to work with in this year.
Yeah.
Obviously Twitter being one of them, Facebook another. But right now it's very soft, but we're hoping to launch and tackle projects as they come. The other thing we're doing is right now is about awareness, as was mentioned in the first question. The next sort of phases will come down to ticketing, sponsorship opportunities, merchandising opportunities, transportation planning. And so come games time, there'll be so many different pieces and functionaries that we have to use social media to get out to the greater communities. But right now, it is about listening.
And our community is much broader than even the one that we're talking about in Southern Ontario or in Canada. Really, we want to bring together all the 42 nations of the Pan Americas together in a big community that supports us. So long-term planning, that's where we want to go. But we want, and our listening does include sort of like global listening, so whether it's neutral or whether it's bad or whether it's good. So far we have some very, very interesting findings, and yet we have some also very interesting places where we need to know, where we now know where we need to go further and how we can further engage. But one of the other things that we actually started early days is many of the younger reporters tweet often.
Right.
Even when they're in municipal council chambers, we're waiting for a ruling to come down. We don't have to wait and phone the city staff anymore and find out what happened. No. We found out like this, and then we're able to issue statements on behalf of the organization, which basically stake out our place, stake out our position, and pull out any conjecture that might formulate because of that decision. So in my career, which we don't need to go on how long it's been, but in my career, I have never been able to move so fast and create statements and just basically media relations on the fly. It's a brand new world, but it's pretty awesome.
But you're smart to take advantage of that, because you're exactly right. I mean, it's so funny. I was just thinking this the other night as I was like sitting there watching a game, and then I was watching one of the reporters tweet from the game, and then I was watching the reporter's story come down like an hour later, with all the quotes, and I'm like, God, when I was a kid, I would have gone and got the newspaper the next day, and I wouldn't have seen any of this. And so it is just funny. I think people know that, but to think about how the process works from a PR perspective is interesting. Yeah.
Games, if you talk to a host broadcaster, what they'll tell you is that there's no longer the traditional TV watcher of games, right? There's the TV watcher, there's the person who may be watching another event at the same time while they're in their living room on their computer, and then there's me. I'm a what do you call it? Two-screen watcher. But then there's also the three-screen watcher, which is your TV, your computer, and your iPod, or your phone, or your personal device. So I'm not that multitasking.
No, I only have 2 hands.
That's true. And there's food also involved while you're watching games. So.
I think I'm a 2.5 maybe, although
I'm
usually
a 2.5 out of 3.
Usually my wife's like, can you put one of those screens away, the phone or the computer?
No.
And I'm like, but I do that. It's funny, every time I watch baseball, I have Twitter up and I watch what people are saying about the game while I'm watching it. That is so true.
I know. My husband always says, what are they saying? What is so interesting? What are they saying?
What's so different?
I know. And he says, well, show me how this works. I go, rather not.
Right.
You can hear all that.
What is it, your secret life? No.
Well, that's really interesting. I mean, it's going to be fascinating to watch, how this evolves over the next few years, and I think we'll have to maybe try, hopefully we can get together again as it progresses and hear how this is all going, because you have a unique experience to watch it grow that quickly, and you're right. In 3 years from now, maybe totally different platforms, totally different channels. So
cool.
We're going to move away from Pan Am a little bit, folks, but check out Toronto2015.com. For more information, .org. I'm sorry. Don't check out .com. You won't find either one of these folks or what they're working on. But check out Toronto2015.org and definitely follow Elissa and Carlene on Twitter for more updates. And now our third question is always kind of a more fun, off-topic question. You guys are in Toronto. I think the majority of the people who read my blog, not all, but the majority are from the States. I went to Toronto recently. I know you all are a big fan of St. Lawrence Market, which was my thing that I would tell people you gotta go see. But what else? If I'm coming to Toronto, what do I got to do?
Well, Toronto is one of the most multicultural cities in the world, even more so than New York and London. I'll have you know. And with apologies to all the New Yorkers. However, when you come to Toronto, you can go to Chinatown and gain an incredible experience. You can go to Little India. You can go to Little Italy. You can go to Greek Town. I mean, there are people who live in Toronto who can stay in their 2-square-mile radius and never have to learn English if they don't want to. Just the sights, the sounds, the smells, the culture, the food. So that's one of the things that I would suggest, but there's other stuff too.
So very close to St. Lawrence Market is something we call the Distillery District.
Okay.
It's a very historic site. It's got cobblestones, so don't wear your heels, ladies.
Okay, Justin, don't wear your heels.
I won't. And I made that mistake last time because I remember those cobblestones. Never again.
Yes, so it's gorgeous. You'll usually see a couple weddings happening. It's great photo spot. But there's a great coffee place in there, Balzac's. I'd check that out.
Okay.
And I'd also check out something like the Boiler House because they have a really great patio and great food.
Yeah, that's true. And then there's some of the traditional sites, like the Art Gallery of Ontario, completely redone, Frank Gehry design, unbelievable. The ROM, which is now redesigned by Daniel Libeskind. Some people love it, some people hate it.
Right.
But it is pretty awesome. That's the Royal Ontario Museum. That is pretty awesome. So there's Toronto, and then there's the outside of the city too. A lot of people come here to go to Stratford, which is just, a replica of Stratford on the Avon in England, where you can see some fabulous plays. I saw West Side Story that last year.
Cool.
I have to tell you, it rivaled anything I saw on Broadway. Really, again, apologies to New Yorkers, but really it was that good.
Very, very cool. Yeah, that's good. I mean, I remember my wife and I, when we left, we were there for like a wedding, so just for like 2 days. And we were like, we didn't get to see, 80% of what we would have wanted to see in this city and beyond. So that's so cool.
I can see something new almost anytime I go out. If
That's
I go
true.
for a new walk or take a different trail, I still
Yeah.
see something new.
Yeah, and if you're active, there's bike trails everywhere. There's bike
Okay.
lanes everywhere. It's pretty awesome.
Well, and I used to live in Chicago, and I mean, that's one of the things that people used to say about Chicago to me in certain way. You know, you could just do something different every day. That was one of the appealing parts about it. So the cost of living was not appealing, but but other than that,
Chicago and Toronto geographically are kind of set up the same.
right. Cool. So, final question, and this one's always about a cause or something you're passionate about. So the question is, you know, reserved for you to just tell us, you know, what's your cause, it can be a nonprofit or a charity, but it's been other things, like people have mentioned TED, you know, videos before. Our friend Chuck Heeman even mentioned hating LeBron James during the NBA Finals. So what's your cause?
Carlene's offended. The interview's over, Justin.
That's right. I will make sure that Chuck
was
knows
cheering
that
for LeBron.
he has offended people now with his cause. So what would your cause or passion be?
Oh my goodness, what's my cause?
Yeah, is there a charity that you really are active in, or something that you just love to do?
Well, to be honest, we both used to actually work together at the Heart and Stroke Foundation of Ontario.
Okay.
So heart disease and stroke, I mean...
#1 killer of Canadians and Americans.
Okay.
It's very similar to the American Heart Association, so this is the Canadian equivalent.
Gotcha.
And it's an amazing place to work. You know, I was there for 17 years, and Carlene's a lot younger, so she was just there for 2 years. But, you know, one of these things is one of these charities where the research is phenomenal. You know, from what I saw, just seeing there, sitting there for 17 years, you know, I saw the advent of TPA, which can basically stop a stroke in its tracks.
Right.
The advent of better drugs, which, you know, people now live longer with heart disease,
Right.
Because of all the research that's gone on. So for us, I would have to say still the Heart and Stroke Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And on a personal fun note,
Right.
what do you say?
On a fun note,
Your
you have something in mind. On my
Not your
passion?
shoes, your dress.
Clothes,
There you go.
clothes, food.
Me? Football.
Oh, football. She plays football.
Yeah.
In
Oh,
fact, when we were RFPing for a sports PR agency, she shows up one day after a game with turf burn
Oh yeah.
My entire
up her
shit.
entire shin. And so she purposely wears a skirt that day and says, if none of these agencies know what this is, and they're applying for sports PR, they're out.
That is the greatest story ever. So, Carlene, you can maybe you can fill me on this one. Then I used to play indoor soccer a lot in Kansas City, and I played softball too. And I don't play either one right now, but I'm looking to get back into soccer. But my wife joked with me. I ended up in the ER 3 summers in a row for different injuries from my recreational sports.
Are you playing extreme soccer?
Yeah,
You know, I wasn't. Basically, I was playing indoor soccer and the turf needed to be replaced.
Yeah.
And so there was
Oh,
like
so it's
a real bad divot. And so when I went to kick the ball, when I came down from kicking it, I planted right in the divot and I sprained my MCL. And then the softball injury was much more stupid than that. I went to field a ball.
You know what, Justin? In the terms of good PR, don't tell us about your stupid industry. We want people to sort
Let's
of
just say when they give you a glove, you're supposed to use it versus your free hand to field the ball. Because otherwise you'll break your finger.
Okay, edit.
Yeah, right. Cut that
You know,
part.
Justin, we uphold you to this huge standard, and now you're telling us like what a sports klutz you are.
I stopped playing. That was the good part. The one other thing I wanted to tell you guys about the heart disease thing you mentioned is it's just interesting. My dad has actually had a quintuple bypass before, successful, but he also was one of the first people in Kansas City to have angioplasty. You know, where they do the balloon. You know, back in the 80s.
Now it's done like that. You know.
Yeah, it's a standard procedure now, right? I mean, it's
standard procedure, but back then it was pretty risky.
Yeah.
And is it doing well?
He's
still,
doing
or?
fine. Yeah, he's recovered from both procedures, and like you were saying, I mean, you know, they were really worried about several years ago when it happened, and he's bounced back great from it. So
Good.
yeah,
Good
very
to
cool.
hear.
Well, thanks you.
Research at work.
Yeah, no, it does. It works. It's really interesting. Well, thanks you guys for your time. Great conversation. We'll all be following what's going on with the Pan Am Games, and we'll have to check back because we've got this still a couple of years till it happens. But it'll be fun to watch.
Okay, great.
So if you're ever in Toronto, come for a visit.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't try to sneak in and out of the city again.
Hey, you know, I know I had to caveat that email last night that it's been a year, so we'll be back and we'll definitely visit the next time. So maybe we can play some football.
Yeah.
Oh.
No.
I mean, we have good health care, but no.
Healthcare, but not for visitors.